fiancé won't budge on his family Christmas traditions to work with mine. My fiancé, a charming and determined man of 28 years, and I, a woman on the cusp of 30 who cherishes traditions and family values, have been navigating the beautiful complexities of our relationship for 3.5 years. During this time, we've shared countless moments of joy, endured challenges that tested our bond, and uncovered the nuances of our vastly different upbringings. These differences have woven a rich, if occasionally tangled, tapestry of our lives together, particularly evident during the holiday season. Growing up, I was part of a vibrant family of 6, with 4 children who were all close in age. My parents, a picture of enduring love, have been married for 34 years, a benchmark of stability and devotion I've always admired. Our family gatherings were intimate, filled with warmth and a sense of simplicity that I now realize was truly special. The holidays, especially Christmas, were sacred in our household. We lived on the East Coast, far from the sprawling chaos of large extended families. Our family gatherings never exceeded 6 people, just my parents, my siblings, and me. Christmas in my childhood home was not about extravagance or loud celebrations. It was about togetherness, comfort, and love. My fondest memories are of us lounging in the cozy living room, the scent of my mother's incredible cooking wafting through the house as we watched holiday classics or exchanged thoughtful, heartfelt gifts. Each year brought the same sense of magic, waking up to a beautifully decorated tree, unwrapping presents carefully chosen with love, and savoring a delicious meal prepared by my mom, whose culinary skills remain unmatched in my eyes. It was a ritual, a rhythm that brought comfort and consistency, a stark contrast to the unpredictable chaos of the outside world. Our traditions extended beyond the home, too. Every Christmas morning, we would dress in our Sunday best and attend church together as a family. The church would be adorned with poinsettias and filled with the soft hum of Christmas carols. It was a time for reflection, gratitude, and celebration of faith, a quiet but profound element of the holiday season that resonated deeply with me. Notably, alcohol was never part of our celebrations. My parents, both teetotalers, believed in savoring the holiday spirit in its purest form, unclouded by substances. This absence of alcohol wasn't a conscious omission but a natural extension of who they were. To me, this simplicity was the essence of family time, being present with one another, laughing over shared stories, and basking in the glow of the season without distractions. As I grew older, I carried these traditions with me, cherishing the understated joy they brought. It was my idea of perfection, a vision of Christmas rooted in love, faith, and the bonds that tethered us together as a family. Little did I know how drastically different my fiancé's upbringing and holiday traditions would be, and how those differences would challenge my notions of what the holidays should look like. Unlike my close-knit, understated family of 6, my fiancé's family dynamic is a mosaic of modern relationships and larger gatherings. He has only one sibling, a younger sister who, despite their occasional bickering, is his steadfast confidant. His parents, who divorced amicably years ago, have maintained a remarkably cordial friendship. In fact, their harmonious post-divorce relationship is often the subject of admiration and sometimes disbelief among friends and acquaintances. It's an arrangement that has allowed their family traditions to remain intact, albeit with a new kind of flexibility. His mom's side of the family, where most of the holiday festivities take place, is quite different from my own small circle. There are 4 cousins, each with their own significant others, and when you add in aunts, uncles, and a sprinkling of family friends, the count rises to nearly 20. The gatherings are a boisterous celebration of life, love, and the sheer joy of being together. Every Christmas Eve, they have a well-established tradition, an Italian feast that begins in the early afternoon and carries on late into the night, sometimes even into the early hours of Christmas morning. This isn't just a casual dinner, it's an event, a sensory explosion of flavors, laughter, and music. The dining table groans under the weight of antipasti platters, lasagna bubbling with cheese, seafood pastas that would make any Italian nonna proud, and homemade desserts like tiramisu and cannoli. Alongside the food flows an endless supply of wine, prosecco, and cocktails. The air hums with chatter, the clink of glasses, and the occasional outburst of competitive energy as the family dives into their favorite games, ranging from card games to raucous rounds of charades. The first time I attended one of these Christmas Eve parties, I was overwhelmed. The sheer volume of people, the energy, the drinking, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Coming from a background where the holidays were serene and reflective, the contrast was striking. It wasn't bad, necessarily, just different. And while I couldn't deny the infectious joy radiating through the room, I struggled to reconcile this version of Christmas with the one I'd grown up cherishing. For my fiancé, however, this was Christmas. These lively gatherings were the essence of the holidays for him, being surrounded by his family, embracing the chaos, and celebrating with gusto. His face lit up in these moments, his laughter echoing through the room as he engaged in banter with his cousins or participated in the games with childlike enthusiasm. It was clear that these parties held a deep significance for him, and I couldn't bring myself to begrudge him that. Since the beginning of our relationship, I have made it a point to attend these Christmas Eve celebrations with him, knowing how much they mean to him. Every year, I've put aside my own preferences to make him happy, even though it's not my idea of an ideal holiday. I miss the quiet, intimate moments I had once associated with Christmas Eve, the comfort of curling up at home, the soft glow of the tree lights, the shared whispers of gratitude and love. Instead, I found myself in a whirlwind of noise, late nights, and traditions that didn't quite feel like my own. This year, the plan remains the same. We will go to his mom's side of the family for their Christmas Eve party. I'll bring my best smile, join in the games, and make polite conversation while the hours tick by. I've learned not to complain because I know how much this means to him. Yet, beneath my outward composure, there's a small ache, a longing for a Christmas Eve where we could blend our traditions, or perhaps create new ones of our own. It feels like a compromise I've been making every year, and though I've accepted it, the thought of losing my own cherished version of Christmas tugs at my heart. This year is especially poignant because it's our first Christmas as an engaged couple and our first in the house we now call home. Part of me had hoped that we could start shaping our own holiday traditions, but for now, it seems that those hopes will remain on hold. As much as I want to celebrate with him in a way that feels meaningful to both of us, the pull of his family's traditions is strong. And so, once again, I'll set aside my vision of a quiet, cozy Christmas Eve for the sake of his joy. Over the past few years, Christmas Day has developed into a pattern dictated by my fiancé as family traditions. The morning begins at his mom's house, a relatively calm start compared to the festive chaos of the night before. We open gifts in the cozy living room, a fire crackling in the hearth as the scent of cinnamon rolls or freshly brewed coffee lingers in the air. There's a brief reprieve from the exuberance of his mom's side of the family. These moments, though pleasant, still feel a bit rushed. Even as we sip our coffee and exchange gifts, there's an unspoken clock ticking in the background because we know we need to leave soon. By late morning, we head to his dad's side, where the mood shifts again. His dad's gatherings are less about boisterous games and alcohol but still involve a steady flow of people, gifts, and food. The atmosphere is more laid back but no less social, with hours spent chatting, exchanging presents, and enjoying a large family meal. While it's lovely to see his family, the day feels like an extended commitment to being on, moving from one celebration to the next without pause. There's little room to just breathe or savor the holiday quietly. What gnaws at me most is the absence of my own family during these moments. My parents, who moved out of town about a year and a half ago, are now too far away for a casual visit. If they're not in town for the holidays, I have no choice but to celebrate without them. It's a stark change from the Christmases of my childhood, where they were the cornerstone of every celebration. The realization that I can't simply drop by their house on Christmas Day to sit by the fire and share a laugh with my siblings still feels like a loss I haven't fully processed. This year, my fiancé and I had briefly entertained the idea of traveling to New York to see my family. The thought of being back on the East Coast, surrounded by familiar sights and sounds, filled me with a nostalgic warmth. I pictured my fiancé sitting at the dining table with my parents, tasting my mom's famous pecan pie, and my siblings teasing him like one of their own. It would have been a chance to show him the Christmas traditions that shaped me, a way to connect our two worlds. But practicality won out, as it so often does. The cost of traveling during the holidays, combined with the time constraints, made it clear that this year, staying in town was the more sensible choice. Still, I held on to a glimmer of hope. If we couldn't spend Christmas with my family, perhaps we could make the day uniquely ours. In my ideal world, we would attend his mom's Christmas Eve gathering for dinner, but only for a few hours, leaving early enough to come home and start our own little traditions. Then, on Christmas Day, we could dedicate the entire day to just us, a quiet celebration in our new home, free from the obligations of extended family. It's our first Christmas as an engaged couple, and something about that feels momentous, a milestone deserving of a special touch. I imagined the two of us waking up to the soft light of a winter morning, the house still and peaceful. We'd open gifts under the tree we had decorated together, our favorite Christmas music playing softly in the background. Breakfast would be simple but indulgent, fluffy pancakes or buttery croissants, paired with steaming mugs of cocoa. We'd spend the day wrapped in blankets, watching holiday movies and sharing laughter. Maybe we'd cook a hearty dinner together, or maybe we'd order takeout and eat it by the fire. The details didn't matter as much as the essence of it, a day spent in each other's company, celebrating not just Christmas but the life we're building together. To me, that vision was the epitome of joy, intimate, cozy, and meaningful. It may not sound exciting to some, but it's the kind of day I treasure, the kind of tradition I've longed to create with my fiancé. Yet when I proposed this idea, his reaction wasn't what I'd hoped for. At first, he seemed open to it, even a little intrigued by the idea of a quiet Christmas day. I allowed myself to believe, however briefly, that we were on the same page, that this year might be the year we started building our own holiday traditions. But as the days passed, his enthusiasm waned. When I brought it up again, he dismissed the idea with an air of indifference. "That sounds boring," he said, his words cutting deeper than he likely realized. "Why would we just sit around at home all day? We have the whole week off to have alone time. Christmas is supposed to be fun." His casual dismissal stung. Fun, to him, seemed synonymous with crowds, noise, and activity, an endless loop of the kind of celebrations his family thrived on. My family's quieter approach, rooted in simple joys and personal connection, seemed to hold no appeal for him. I tried to explain why this mattered to me, why I hoped we could carve out time just for us this year, but he brushed it off, uninterested. The chasm between our visions for the holiday season suddenly felt vast and insurmountable. I had already made so many compromises over the years, putting his preferences above my own. Yet, when I asked for this one thing a day to celebrate in a way that felt meaningful to me, his response was that he didn't care. It was a small moment, but it carried the weight of all the sacrifices I'd made, all the ways I had bent myself to fit into his world. The realization left me feeling hollow and unmoored, questioning whether my vision of Christmas could ever coexist with his. When my fiancé brushed off my idea of spending Christmas Day together as boring, I felt an ache that was hard to ignore. It wasn't just the word itself, it was the underlying dismissal of something that meant so much to me. His tone was casual, even nonchalant, as though the very idea of a quiet day spent together wasn't worth considering. His follow-up remark that my family Christmases sounded lame compared to the way his family actually has fun hit like a punch to the gut. I knew his words weren't meant to hurt me. My fiancé has a way of speaking his mind that's often blunt, sometimes to the point of carelessness. But in that moment, I couldn't help but take it personally. How could I not? These were the traditions that shaped my childhood, the memories I held close to my heart, and the vision I had for our future together. To hear them reduced to lame felt like a rejection of something intrinsic to who I am. I tried to explain, though my voice trembled under the weight of suppressed frustration. "I just want one day," I said, my eyes searching his face for understanding. One day for us to be together, to start creating our own traditions. I've already made so many sacrifices for your family's way of celebrating. Can't you meet me halfway on this? He shrugged, his expression indifferent. You've already spent Christmas Eve with my family the past few years. What's the big deal? It's just one day. His words made my heart sink. I felt a wave of frustration and sadness rise within me, a tide I could no longer hold back. It is a big deal to me, I said, my voice sharper now. I've gone along with your traditions, year after year, even though they're not what I'm used to. I've stayed up late at those parties, played the games, smiled through the exhaustion because I knew it made you happy. But when I ask for one day, just one day for us to do something that matters to me, you don't care. He looked at me then, startled by the edge in my voice. For a moment, I thought he might soften, might realize how much this meant to me. But instead, he doubled down. I just don't see the point of sitting around at home all day. We can have alone time anytime. Christmas should be about being with family and having fun, not whatever this is. His words felt like a door slamming shut, cutting off the possibility of compromise. The sting of his indifference lingered, deepening the crack that had begun to form between us. It wasn't just about Christmas anymore, it was about being heard, being valued, and finding a way to blend our lives without one of us feeling erased. I turned away, unable to look at him for fear that my frustration might spill over into tears. You don't get it, I whispered, more to myself than to him. You really don't. The days leading up to Christmas passed in a tense, uneasy silence. I tried to shake the lingering disappointment, telling myself it wasn't worth ruining the holiday over this. But no matter how hard I tried, the weight of the unresolved conflict clung to me. I found myself replaying our conversation over and over, wondering if I was asking for too much or if he was unwilling to give enough. On Christmas Eve, as we prepared to leave for his mom's family party, I found myself hesitating. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, trying to summon the energy to plaster on a smile and pretend everything was fine. But it wasn't. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing a part of myself in this relationship, constantly compromising while my own needs and traditions were pushed aside. When we arrived at the party, the usual chaos unfolded. Laughter filled the room, glasses clinked, and his family welcomed us with open arms. Yet I felt like an outsider, smiling through the noise while my thoughts drifted elsewhere. My fiancé, meanwhile, was in his element, his laughter ringing out as he joined his cousins in a spirited game of charades. At one point, his mom pulled me aside. "You've been quiet tonight," she said gently, her eyes filled with concern. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just a lot on my mind," I replied, though my heart ached to say more. Her expression softened. "You know, starting a life together means finding a way to balance. It's not always easy, but it's worth it." Her words stayed with me throughout the evening, a quiet echo in the back of my mind. As the hours ticked by and the party began to wind down, I realized that this wasn't just about Christmas or traditions, it was about the foundation we were building as a couple. And right now, that foundation felt shaky. When we got home, the house was silent, the Christmas lights casting a soft glow across the living room. My fiancé was already heading to bed, his energy spent from the evening's festivities. I lingered by the tree, staring at the ornaments we'd picked out together, each one a symbol of the life we were building. For the first time, I allowed myself to fully feel the weight of my disappointment. This wasn't how I wanted our first Christmas as an engaged couple to feel. And if we couldn't find a way to navigate this now, what would it mean for the future? As I climbed into bed, I resolved to have one more conversation with him the next day. I couldn't let this fester. If we were going to build a life together, we needed to find a way to truly hear each other, to honor both of our traditions and values. Compromise couldn't be a one-sided effort, it had to come from both of us. Christmas morning dawned quietly, and as we exchanged gifts, I finally spoke up. "I love you," I said softly, "but we need to talk about how we're approaching the holidays. I don't want to lose myself in this relationship, and I don't want you to feel like you are losing, either. Can we figure this out together?" For a moment, he said nothing, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded. "I guess I haven't really thought about how much you've been compromising," he admitted. "I'm sorry if I've been selfish. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start." And as we sat together by the tree, sharing a quiet moment amid the holiday chaos, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to make our traditions blend not perfectly, but in a way that felt right for us. Because that's what building a life together is about, finding the balance between two worlds and creating something new, something uniquely ours.